Hello and welcome to this video. My name is David Dawn. In this video we're going to be talking all about Codable, JSON and generics. Now it's more than likely in any application that you do, you're always going to receive some form of JSON data through an API request or a file system in multiple different ways. And as you can see here in this example, I have a group here with a file called people.json, and this has then some simple people or person objects in here that we're going to use, or person value types that we're going to use inside of our application. And I've just got the file to that, I've got the path to that file inside the environment to use. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to load this one file. We're going to convert it to JSON data that we can then decode into a person type that will then convert that into a collection of person or people array and so on. So let's just jump straight in and let's show you how to do this using generics and Codable. So the first thing that we want to do is we need to create a URL so we can use it later. And so let's just say URL here. And in this scenario, we need a file path because it is on the file system. And so we can just say local DB folder. And then we're just going to say append path after that. Well, this is the file name is called people. And this model data is just a group, so it actually doesn't exist on the file system. It exists inside the inside of Xcode. And so we can just say people here, and the file extension is JSON. So once we have this one URL, we now need to load some data, right? Or we can use then the data constructor, and we can do then contents of the URL, and this will load that one data from the file for us. So this is all of the file system stuff done for us there. Now, once we do this, we need a decoder, right? And so we can just instantiate a decoder. And once we do the decoder, we want to convert this data that we have here to JSON data. Well, we can do that through trying again because it's going to throw. We are going to fix this exclamation mark shortly. And we can just say decoder. And here we're going to say decode. And the type, we're going to say it's going to be an array. That's what it should be expecting to do, to take this data. And this data is an array, a JSON array. And the type that it's going to use is person, which we're going to create shortly. And we're going to say self. And then we're going to pass in then the data here. Okay, so once we have this, we now know that we have we have people here. Sorry, and we can just print out people. Now, obviously, at this one point, it doesn't know what a person is. So let's just go ahead and create a person, and it's going to have an ID of int, and it's going to have a name of string, and it's going to have a surname of string. Okay, super simple. Now, in order for this person to be able to be used by the JSON decoder, it needs to conform to decodable. Now, Codable in itself is already encodable and decodable together. So we can just say Codable, so we can go in both directions, not just decode, and we can encode it back to JSON as well, in the event you need to send this over the file, over the network, or save it back to the file as well. So now when we run this, we will now get an output of all of our people, our persons in the file, and there you can see it outputs them. But let's just convert it to be a little bit different using a for each loop, and we can just say person here, and we'll just print then the person dot name. Oh, let's get rid of that one as well. So now we just have a simple list of David, James, Stephen, and John. When we look in the file, David, James, Stephen, and John. All right. And so now that we've done this, this is all well and good. This is now our specific code, specific to person and to people.json file. So now we need to start creating our function. And let's just call our function decode model. All right. And in here, we're going to say then the model name is going to be a string, right? And we need to return an array of person. But because we're using generics, we're going to say an array of t, right? And so we can move this t to the beginning. And we know already that we need a decodable here as well. So because we're only going to be decoding it, we'll just say decodable here. Now we can literally just cut this and paste this in here, and this people we can replace with model name, and we can remove the exclamation mark, and we can remove the exclamation mark because we can send this throws out as well. So we just say throws here, and now it doesn't worry about this. But we cannot now convert person to return type of T, so no problem. We'll just put T in there as well because T is decodable, so it fulfills this requirement here. So now we're just left with not having our people here. So let's use people, and we'll say decode model, and we'll say people, and let the compiler help us once again. You can see here generic parameter T could not be inferred. Super easy. Using type annotation, we're just going to say that people is a person array, and before you know it, it says, okay, we need to add then the try instead. And when we run this, we get exactly the same thing once again: David, James, Stephen, and John. So this is using generics, but you know, right now it's like a little bit of overkill because we only have one type here. So you could just say decode person and then just put person in here. But what about if we create another type, right? And this time we're not going to say surname. There's lots of types that just have an ID and a name. And let's just say city, all right? And we could just copy this here. And yes, the people file, we could just rename it to city, and we could update each item to say London and Paris and so on. But I just can't be bothered to do that. So we're just going to say people here. And then we change city, and we can say cities, and we can say city here or cities there, and then say city here, and then city name. And when we run this once again, you can now see that we've got David, James, Stephen, and John once again. But we've decoded that model, the same file, but with a different type this time. So this function really doesn't care about this one struct. All it cares about is that this one struct is decodable, and it will just do the rest. Now, if this one file doesn't exist, then obviously it's going to throw an error. But we can catch that type of stuff super easy as well. But by just by just moving it all then to a do catch block and removing the exclamation marks, and let's just print out the error once again. And you can handle the error however you want. And obviously this is not going to throw because there's nothing wrong with it. However, if we just change the people file name to misspell it, you can see here that we can catch the error nice and easily. So, but this whether the file does or doesn't exist has nothing to do with really the decoding of it. It's just saying, hey, it's going to do the URL here, and this is all working perfectly fine. But when it's got to actually go to the contents of this one file, this is what's throwing. So it's got nothing to do with the decoding of it. It's just, yeah, the loading of the file. So with that said, when we change it back and we run it once again, everything works perfectly fine. And when we run the cities with a spelling mistake, it doesn't work as per normal. So this is how you can create just a simple helper function to be able to load all of your models. Now, granted, this could be a lot more complex than that. You could do a request to the server. You might need authentication, authorization. You might need all sorts of access tokens. You name it, and check whether the network is up or down. So this function could be a lot more difficult. It could be a lot more complex. But once you've grasped how to use generics with JSON decoder and then encoder, you'll see how powerful generics are and how important it is to learn about generics, because at the end of the day, when you have an application that has multiple different types that you've got to display, and if you're going to be updating those data or creating those data entities over the network, you're going to need some good endpoint codes that understand how to be able to send the request, how to be able to receive the request, how to be able to encode and decode the objects to send over the network. And you don't want to be creating 100 different functions for 100 different entities. You want to just be able to literally create the entity here using the struct and encodable, and then have like an endpoint or something that is also generic, that takes a codable that can send, or a codable and identifiable that can send this information across the network. So it's really important to be able to understand at a fundamental basic level about codable, JSON and generics, because you will find this will be the thing that is going to save you so much time when creating Swift applications, either through iOS, macOS, or one of the other ones that you intend to use. With that said, I hope that you've got something out of this one video. I hope you've learned something from this one video, and I hope the message that I've got across here is how important generics are, and this is it at a fundamental level, and so on. Obviously, generics can get a lot more complicated than this, but when it comes down to encoding and decoding data, then you're going to need it to save code. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and do all of the other social media things that you can do to it, so you can maybe assist other people to find this one video, and then this video might help them as well. And other than that, if you've got any questions, feedback, or concerns, let's start, as always, a conversation in the comment section down below. I will answer all of your questions, and normally your questions I will create another video, or there is another video maybe in the playlist that could answer it. So before you ask the question, just check out the playlist. Maybe there is another one there. But if you can't find it, then ask the question, and I'll more than likely make another video as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name's David Thorne. Ciao, ciao, and goodbye.